In doing so, man, we can't cast our pearls before swine, but we still have to give it out to those that need it, right? And make sure we give it out in good measure and proper assurance. But without further ado, like I told them, brother Azrael, the topic today is going to be called good stewardships. Good stewardship. We shouldn't be long. Got some precepts here that we're going to jump into, and we know that all scripture, is double to that which is. Um, you can see it physically, you can see it spiritually. And some ways, man, sometimes you can just tap into some of the dark sayings and kind of bring some things to light. And so I got a few scriptures where I'm a tap into, man, just to touch on stewardship, um, and try to bring out a little bit something different from the scriptures, that people might not have seen before, but it all will tie in. Um, before we get that, can you do me a favor? And I'm not gonna pull it up on the screen or anything, but can you look up the definition for stewardship? You can just get any definition, man, whether that be Google, Blue Letter Bible, it doesn't really matter.
Con of the one.
Before I go into these scriptures, man. Got some good scriptures too, man. I just got to reading them and it kind of made me think. But come, man. You could have got it on your phone too, man. You could have read it off your phone if you wanted to. Nothing too deep. Just to kind, you want to put it on the screen. Hey, the brother showing love, man. He putting it on the screen for y'all. Let's see. My eyesight terrible, bro. It's too small for me to read. Let me blow up my screen.
And I'm trying to see. I'm not very tech
I mean,
savvy.
that's good right there, though. That's good right there. I can read that. So stewardship, right? This is the definition of stewardship, um, which the Oxford Dictionary, right? The job of supervising or taking care of something, such as an organization or property, right? Being responsible stewardship of our public lands, right? So a couple things to hone in on there: supervising, right? Taking care of something, right? Such as an organization or property. And so we got to be good stewards, man, when it comes to everything that we receive in this world. Whether that be property, your houses, even if you're living in an apartment, money, land, livestock, your gardens, right? Um, brother pulling up some more information here, right? Conducting, supervising, managing of something, right? Good. You gotta have good management of things, man. The careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. I like that. I like that last one, man. The careful and responsible management of something entrusted to one's care. I like that. Careful, responsible, and management, right? Careful, responsibility, and management. I like that. But without further ado, man, let's get into these scriptures really quick. I'm gonna share my screen with y'all. Um, so if the brother could read for me today.
The book of First Timothy, chapter 5 and verse 8. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith, and is worse than an infidel.
Right, man. So you got to be able to provide, man, and to be able to provide, you got to have what, you got to take care for what you're responsible for, and you got to take responsibility. And the way you take responsibility is knowing how to manage those things, right? So you can then for provide, right? This is a staple precept, um, for at least every man, right? Not even every man in the truth, every man, period. Right? This principle stands. Go ahead.
Salakia, this is kind of the equivalent of a woman getting married, right? Or a woman giving birth. To provide for as a man to provide for his family, that is a heavy thing that's always on our mind, that's always on our conscience, right? And if we don't provide for our family, us men that are come to the knowledge of the truth in this Bible, right? We feel like we are not fulfilling what we were meant to do on this earth, right? We become a reproach, right? So when you read in the Bible that, okay, if a woman isn't married, a woman doesn't have a kid, she'll kind of be seen as, or she'll have some type of reproach put on her. Same thing with a man, right? And consequently, when we come into this truth, we find it hard to provide for our families in the system, in this beast system that we're in. And it kind of brings a reproach to brothers. Just talked to a brother today, and he was just checking in with me, and we chopped it up a little bit, and he said I asked him how he was enduring, and asked him how his new job was, and he said, "Khan King, a lot of hours on my feet, but I'm just glad the Most High gave me a way to be able to provide for my family." Right. So a lot of brothers, man, we take that to the heart, being able to provide for our families, man. Because if we don't, we kind of feel like that's a reproach, and that's that being worse than an infidel. Naturally, we just don't want to be that.
Con, man. Con, man. Just to highlight some of this, it says if you do these, if you don't, if you don't provide for your household, right? And those that you're over, it says that you have denied the faith, right? You can't be in the truth, man, if you're slothful. You can't be in the truth if you have terrible management skills. This truth is all about management, right? Managing your time, managing your emotions, your feelings, managing your spirit. um you know even when it goes into that word provide, it doesn't just necessarily mean of course your food, raiment, clothing, duty of marriage, right? Protection. It doesn't just mean that. It also means, hey, look, you got to be able to provide understanding of these scriptures, understanding of this gospel as well, right? And a lot of us, um especially men, a lot of men out there, they take the back seat to that, and you show up with your pen and paper, and you're always a student. But when it's come time to break something down or give the understanding to your wife or to your kids, man, you struggle. And when you struggle, you often rely on another man to come in and bring understanding. We see it time and time again, right? There's nothing wrong with getting counsel, but you should be at a level to where you'll be able to provide that information for the ones that you're under, right? That way it can be decent in order, as the scriptures say. Let the wife learn from her own husband at home. If you're not taking good management of your time to get the proper understanding of these scriptures, man, so you can break it down to your wife and your kids, there's no way for your wife to learn from you at home if you're constantly saying, "That's a good question, babe, let me ask the elders." You know what I'm saying? "That's a good question, let me get back to you, let me check with somebody first." You should, what the Bible say, be ready to give any man an answer according to the faith that's within you. But right here in First Timothy, where it says you have denied the faith, there is no faith in you if you don't know how to break down these scriptures. You can't provide these scriptures to those that you're over, right? Because ultimately that's how you're going to be righteously over somebody, is if you know these scriptures, right?
If I could go give a parallel, could you go to Nehemiah chapter 8 and verse 8?
Come on.
Since we're on stewardship, there's different levels of stewardship, but you can learn from each level of stewardship, right? You might not be a king, you might not be a priest, you might not have some duties of a warrior, right? That, or a captain or a general of 50 or 1,000, right? But everything is parallel, man. You're the steward of something, right? So Nehemiah 8 and 8, kind of going into what the brother just said, right? It said, and these were like the priests and the kings at this time, when they first got the book of the law back and they were rebuilding the city, right? It says, so they read in the book in the law of God distinctly and gave the sense and caused them to understand the reading, right?
Con,
So you might not be over a nation, right? You might not be over 50. You might not be over a congregation or an organization, but you guess what? The Most High God may have gifted you a family. And so you should be able to read in the book of this law and give the sense to your family and the understanding of the reading, right? You should be able to give wisdom according to the Bible, right? And decision making and prudence, right? You should be able to do those things as a steward of your family, right? And then once you've mastered that, guess what? The Most High God will increase you. And next thing you know, you might be in an organization. Next thing you know, you might be in a position of power at your job. You might be in a position of power over the nation. You never know, right? But
con,
it starts with practice, right? Even if you have a dog, you don't even have a family yet. You got a dog. Are you mistreating that dog? Are you taking that dog out for walks? Or are you just letting it stay in the cage all day? Are you feeding it regularly, right? Are you brushing it, washing it? Are you a good steward of what the Most High God has given you? Your car, right? Anything. Are you a good steward? Because hey, to whom much is dang, I forgot how to say it. To whom much is
whom, to whom much is given, much is required.
right. To whom much is given,
Con,
much is required.
and the brother said something that made me think of this man, where he said, "Hey, look, you're a good steward of those things that you have. You'll find yourself in higher positions. Why? Because you can be trusted to be in those higher positions. Bring this out. This is a classic, man. This is what we live by.
Matthew 6 and 33. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you.
Right, man. But to seek the kingdom of God, man, you got to be diligent. You gotta know how to manage your time. You gotta know how to um, be responsible for the things that are required of you concerning this faith, right? And then once you've mastered that, all these other things that were promised to us, right? Life and life more abundantly will come, man. All those things will come that your heart desires, but first you got to be able to put everything in order, and that comes with being a good steward of faith. But let's get into some examples of being, just stewards in general, right? I think I want six. Do I want 16? What is it? Yeah, 16. 16 and 10. If you could read this for me.
Luke 16 and 10. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is unjust also in much.
Come, man. And we all heard those sayings where it says, "Hey, look, man, how can you be trusted with something big if you're not even taking care of the little things, man? You want a big barnuminium, but you can't even take care of your apartment, right? You want to roll around in a Mercedes Benz, but you can't even take care of your little Toyota Corolla, right? Everything you own is discombobulated, dirty, nasty, right? So even when you get those nice things, what is it going to be? Right? You're going to have no practice towards stewardship of those things, man. And more than likely, those better things, if you ever get them, you're not going to know how to take care of them, man. Right? It says, "He that is faithful in that is least, he will be trusted to have faithful in that is much." Right? Again, man, it's the little things. You practice on a smaller scale, and the bigger things will come. Right?
God,
We're gonna go to the book of Proverbs really quick.
right. And we don't have to get this, but I know an example that comes to mind is Amos, right? David, um, Moses, right? Um, all these people had something in common, man. They were keeper of sheep, they were keeper of herds, right? So it doesn't matter what task you may have before you. You might think what you're doing has no means to an end, right? But the Most High God, He orders your steps, and He got you doing what you're doing because it might lead to something greater, right? So when it says somebody that does much with the least amount of, you might just be just the keeper of the sheep, but one day
Right.
you'll keep the people, right?
Right,
So
man. And if
don't
you're
ever.
diligent with that, I believe, I think I read in Chronicles, right, where God was telling David, man, um, look at all the things I bestowed upon you. For I took you from keeping the sheep to keeping my people, right? And when David was a keeper of the sheep, man, he did his thing, right? He protected them sheep with his life. You know what I'm saying? As if they were his people. And God knew that he was diligent enough and faithful enough to take care of that task. So he knew he would be the right person to do it on a bigger scale, right? A parallel would be, hey man, the most high esteems us above the ravens and the flowers, right? He says he provides all these things for the raven and the flower. How much more his people? And he saw that in David, that David provided, and he was a good steward over these animals, over these dumb animals. How much more will he be a good steward over my people, right? And so David got that opportunity, and when he got that opportunity, he didn't let the Most High down, right? But if you could read this, we're gonna get into some proverbs, some wise sayings, and kind of break them down and see them in a different light, right?
Proverbs 21 and 25. The desire of the slothful killeth him, for his hands refuse to labor.
Right. The desires of the slothful. And when I read this, man, this is what it came to mind. You know, the slothful, the lazy, they're the ones that always have, the craziest imaginations. Man, I want this. Man, I want that. Right? They sit back and they say, one of these days I'm gonna have this and I'm gonna have that. Right? It says that his desire, those things that he's desire, they kill him. How do they kill him? Right? Because he's always wanting, but he never even makes no type of headway to get to that thing that he's desiring. It kills him in the inside, right? Because his desires don't stop, right? But his effort does not help him in any way. It's slowly killing him, man. Right? The more, and we know the more we want something, man, the longer it's drawn out, the more it vexes us that we don't have it, right? And why is this happening? It says, for his hands refuse to labor, right? He or she will never achieve that thing because they're slothful, right? Let's take, for instance, even just saving up money, right? Oh, I want, what's something that somebody might want?
In
Could
saving
ask,
money,
I'm just saying in general, something that somebody might want,
I want some land. I want a house. I want
right?
to.
I want a ranch or something, right? I want a ranch. I want some land, right? This person can always desire this land, right? But if his hands refuse to labor to work for it, his desire will kill him because he'll never get it, right? And that happens to a lot of us, man. That happens to a lot of us. Um, Once we set in our mind that we want something, man, and we understand um, that 9 times out of 10, if you want something, it's gonna be for vanity. But I'm on here to exhort you guys to be a good steward of what you have, so the Most High can bless you in this land of captivity, man. Right? He can give you the desires of your heart, but to do that, you can't be slothful, man. To do that, you have to be able to be diligent and consistent, especially with saving. Right?
Right. I watched the interview today with the Greek Freak. Right, they just got eliminated out of the Bucks in the NBA. They just got eliminated out of the playoffs. And somebody asked him. He said, "Do you think this season was a failure?" And Giannis, he said that Michael Jordan played 15 years in the league, but he only won 6 championships. Does that mean the other 9 years was a failure? And he proceeds to say, no, it builds up, right? So when the brother goes over the precept that says, don't be slothful, right? You got to work hard, right, with your hands. This means, guess what? those little tasks that you're working hard for are showing you or teaching you work ethic, right? So when you work hard and you get rewarded for that, that will stay in your mind. So next time you have to work hard for something, you'll understand there is a reward at the end of the day. For example, Galatians 6:9. Let us not grow weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap. Right. So it
Con,
doesn't matter, like we said earlier, from the least of things to the heaviest of things. If you're struggling to do the laundry, right? That's the least of things. If you're struggling to do the laundry, right, and to be organized in your house, how are you expecting the Most High God to give you a leadership role in anything else, and you can't even organize clothes, right? You can't even take the time because you're too slothful. You can't even take the time to organize clothes, right? So everything works together, right? And now
con.
when you organize your clothes, you get the reward of knowing where things are, knowing what's clean and what's dirty. So you work hard, you reap the
Not only
benefit.
that, man, it makes your life that much easier. Like the brother was saying, like, man, and I can contest to this, man. You got a whole bunch of clean clothes just piled up, right? When it's time to find clothes to put on, maybe you're in a rush to get out the house, right? You know what you want to wear, but you got to dig through this pile to get it, right? Having good care and good management just makes your whole life easier. But I love that precept that the brother brought out. Galatians 6:9 is another classic. Grow not weary and well doing, man. And again, I'll relate this back to saving. A lot of us struggle with saving, right? A lot of blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we struggle with saving, right? We have that tempted eye, that temptation. We get a little money, we want to spend it on something, man, right? But grow not weary and well doing, right? Keep saving, keep being consistent, and you'll reap the harvest if you faint not, right?
Right.
You had something else?
I just want to bring it full circle. I didn't want to leave
Con,
my metaphor um, off the hook or whatever. But anyway, with the NBA, pretty much he's saying, look, just because I didn't win the championship this year, that doesn't mean that this year was a failure. I've learned a lot. We worked hard. We did have some successes, so it's going to teach me. So next time when I do win a championship, right, you can't attest it to just that one year. You got to attest it to all the years that I failed as well, because I was working hard in those years as well, and that's what led up to this, right? So always work hard, even if you can't see the finish line, even if you don't think that what you're doing is that important. Always work hard, because in the end, man, he'll turn something that was small into something big, and you'll be able to connect the dots.
con, man, con. You could read this for me.
Proverbs 12:24, the hand of the diligent shall bear rule, but the slothful shall be under tribute.
Con, man, and this you can spin this scripture a thousand ways, man. Right? One way that comes to mind is the hand of the diligent shall bear rule, meaning like um somebody that's diligent, that's consistent, that's good at management, right? Managing their things. They'll once they'll be in a position where I was gonna say a position of rest, but a position of rule, meaning like you ain't got to worry about nothing. You know what I'm saying? You got all your ducks in a row. Um, there was and excuse my language, but when you get to that point where you got enough money saved up, where they call it in the world, they call it screw you money, right? They got enough money, like I don't need this job, right? You can make power moves, right? But the one that is slothful shall be under tribute. You'll forever be under tribute, meaning like you'll always have to work. You need that job to survive, right? If you're always under tribute, right, you struggle with saving. You don't have enough money saved up. You can't, you're terrible with managing your funds. So you're under tribute. You're subject to what? EBT, right? You're subject to government housing. You're subject to things that make you a tributary to something because you don't own nothing. You don't have anything, right? You don't have any cushion. You don't have any emergency funds or anything. You're always going to be under tribute. You're always going to be in debt, right? And so it's important for us to stay diligent and consistent, because that diligence, like the brother just brought out again, I'm gonna go back to the classic: grow not weary in well doing, right? Because in due season you'll reap the harvest. And me and the brother, we talk all the time about this all the time, man. We're in our 20s, our early 20s, and you
Late
know,
twenties.
when you late 20s, yeah, you're right. You're right. Slakia. But even all throughout your 20s, man, it should not look pretty. I'm talking about all throughout your 20s, man, right? And so we always talk about, hey, look, man, you're diligent in your 20s, you suffer, you sacrifice in your 20s, right? You don't grow wearing in your 20s. So when you get about 30, 35, now you can bear rule to some things, right? You got enough excuse me, screw you money in the bank to where if you need to quit your job, if your boss is tripping, not saying go and quit your job, but if you need to, you can do that, right? You got enough cushion. If you run into a medical emergency, right? You got enough emergency funds, right? Um, you know, so when you're in your 35s, you can bear rule, you can relax a little bit, you can enjoy the fruits of your labor, and you won't feel like you're in tribute. When you're 35 and 40, you won't feel like you constantly still have to, clock in every day, right? You constantly feel like you always got to get it. You can't spend no money on this, can't spend no money on that. You can't relax, right? You can't take no PTO off. You know what I'm saying? The diligent shall bear rule, and with that rule comes rest. And the slothful will always be under tribute, always be, pushing it. You trying to get it. You had something.
Yeah. I was watching Pastor Dow and his communities the other day, and they take pride in paying for everything and doing their own work, right? They just put up a building a few days ago, right? With cement blocks, they put up their own building. They bought the materials, they put it up, and they were taking pride in the fact that they didn't have to take out no loans for the land. They didn't have to take out any loans for the material. They didn't have to pay any laborers and have to worry about labor costs being double the amount of material. He said, we are able to build this with our own hands because they're diligent, right? They're hardworking. We were able to build this with our own hands and call it ours. We're not in any debt to anybody or anything. A lot of people, when they start projects like that, they take on a lot of debt, right? And that's you being under tribute when you have to worry about paying the laborers because you didn't want to do it. You have to worry about paying off that loan because you didn't want to save the money to put down, right? So be diligent in all things, like the brother is saying, man, and you'll reap the benefits of that. You'll be able to rule over your own house, rule over your own land, rule over your decisions.
Right. You won't feel like a tributary, man. You won't have to feel like you got to play by somebody else's rules. You can play by your own. Pun intended. Think about it, man. If you ever went and bought a vehicle, right? Um, Now if you had the straight up cash to buy the vehicle cash, I never been at that level yet, right? Hopefully, Lord willing, maybe one day, you can go in and buy something cash. You walk in a little bit more confident, man, right? I don't want to, you don't have to ask me for proof of income. You ain't got to ask me for what my credit score is. All you need to know is that I got the cash to walk out with this vehicle, right? Don't ask me no more questions. We're playing by my rules, right? And when that happens, you really are playing by your rules. Nah, I don't want that. Put that on there. Nah, don't. And they're gonna treat you like kings and queens when you walk in there, right? And that just all just comes with being diligent enough to be able to walk in there with the money, for the whole money to pay off that car right at that moment. And what does that come with? It comes with you not being able to be tribute, like me personally, and mostly most of the people in America that can't afford to buy a car right out. I'm forced to be a tributary, and I got to pay a car note every month. You know, some things you just can't get around. You know what I'm saying? We're working on that, paying that car off early, but again, it's a testament. You be diligent enough, man, you'll be able to bear rule, and you won't have to be, a tributary. Right? I'm gonna go to the next one. Let's go to Proverbs 26 and 15, I think. Is it? Yeah. Proverbs 26 and 15. If you could read this for me.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 26 and 15. The slothful hideth his hand in his bosom. It grieveth him to bring it again to his mouth.
Man, when I read this, man, the first thing that came to my mind was somebody, you're at a restaurant, um, you know, something happens to you out in the street, you got to pay from something. And the way I painted this picture in my head was this, right? So it says, "A slothful hideth his hand in his bosom, and it grieveth him to bring it back again to his mouth." I pictured a man having to pay for something, reaching into his pocket, reaching into his wallet, right? And it grieveth him to bring it out. It could be for two reasons now, right? One, he might not have enough, right? Like, dang, man, I don't even want to look at my bank account right now, right? And two, he might be like, man, I got it, but I don't want, I know I can't spend it, right? Because I'm about to be broke, you know. And a lot of us have been put in that position where we've been slothful, we've been lazy, haven't been diligent, right? Got nothing to our name, and it grieves us to have to pay for something because we ain't got it, or our funds are running low. You go out with all your friends, everybody, paying for their ticket to get into the movie theater, right? Everybody's paying for food or something, and you want to be a part of the crew. You put your hand to your bosom to take out your wallet, man. It kind of grieves you, man. Or right, you get that final ticket. You get that ticket. You get that receipt. It grieves you to look at it, man. Like, right. And it says the slothful. This is what happens to the slothful, man. Slothful just means lazy, right? You got to be able to be somebody that's diligent, somebody that is responsible, that takes care, that's prudent, and that has good management of his things, his property, right? He's not going to be considered a slothful person, right? Gotcha. You have something to add or not?
Nah.
Got you. Um, so we almost done, man. I'm gonna pull up um one precept and then a passage, and then we be out of here. Watch this. We're gonna go to the book of Luke. Um, Luke. Let's go 12 and 42. Luke 12 and 42. Another thing, man, it's important to know that you don't have to have much. We've been going over this in this lesson too. But you don't have to have much to be a good steward, man. You can be a good steward over anything, whether you have whether you only making $9 an hour, you know, you can be a good steward with that more than you think. We talk about this all the time. Back when we were in college, we used to we used to go a month with only like $12 in the bank account. We used to make it happen. Whether we had to, eat ramen noodles every night, or hustle and bustle, try to get $5 every day or something like that. I remember there was a time where, hey, look, I was happy just to get $5 to put in the gas tank. And I just told myself, hey, I can't leave the small little area of Fort Valley, but at least I would have enough to get to and fro to get me where I need to go. Right, $5 in the gas tank, maybe $10 worth of groceries that get me through the week. You know, and
Yeah.
so you can be a good steward with little as well.
Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, something to say.
um, I was just gonna say, it was back in those days where it kind of forced you to be um, friendly, man. You gotta try to make connections with people. Oh,
Right.
You work at Chick Fil A. Y'all got extra stuff when y'all close up. Let me get a free chicken sandwich or something. or things like that, man. It forces you to be creative, man, and not be slothful. You know what I'm saying? So some
Right.
most like God puts you in situations so you can learn, how to handle those situations, um, to prepare you for other things to come.
Right, man. You can't be slothful. It forces you to get up out off your butt to make something happen.
Right.
Right.
And those things also are testimonies, right? We get a lot of our hope through testimonies. That's the reason why he gives us our testimonies so that we can reflect on them and remember when he brought us out of Egypt, when he got us that new job when we were dead broke, when he got us that relationship that we were praying for, when he brought us back to health, right? Little tiny testimonies we forget about all the time, right?
Right.
But when they come to mind, it's because God had them happen for a reason, and He knows that you needed it for this season, right? But Con,
Man. And the brother hinted at you know, Egypt, and we're about to get into a little bit of, how we got into Egypt in the first place. And so we're gonna make this quick precept upon precept, and then we'll be out of here after this, right? So if you could read this.
Luke chapter 12 and 42, and the Lord said, "Who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of meat in due season?"
Man, this is red letter, right? Man, Christ was so cold because he literally was describing our brother Joseph, right? Now, this goes with all of us as well, right? If you're a good and wise steward, the Lord shall make you ruler over your own household and give you a portion of meat in due season, right? You'll never be hungry. You know what I'm saying? You'll never you'll never not understand the scriptures, right? That meat can also be this word. He'll always give you understanding if you have good stewardship over this in this faith, right? How do you have good stewardship in this faith? You make the time to you manage your time so you can get your reading in every day. You manage the time to test what you know, right? To see if you're actually able to teach these things, right? To who? Your wife, your brother, your sister, your kids, right? Hey, some of us in this truth, even our parents, and not only being good stewards of that knowledge, but being a good steward of the people that you're spreading this knowledge to, having that patience, right? Not getting all worked up, but being able to display it in a manner of which shows your good stewardship, shows your diligence, um, and let your knowledge win them over, and not you bombarding them and overpowering, overbearing them with your passion and your emotions and things of that nature. But could you read it one more time for me before we revert back to Genesis and get into this story about how our brother Joseph fits this to a T?
Luke 12 and 42, and the Lord said, "Who then is that faithful and wise steward, whom his Lord shall make ruler over his household, to give them their portion of meat in due season?"
Come on, man. He's asking a question here, and I'm sure it's got many answers to this question, right? But one person I have in mind was our brother Joseph. So we're gonna go to the book of Genesis and go to chapter 41. And a lot of us might know this story already, man, but it's a story that I always like to go to um in a time like this where we're getting in the last days, and there's talks of shortages and cashless systems and things like that. And people, we've gotten to this mindset where some people might think it doesn't matter how much you save or you store up and things of that nature. And I'm here to tell you, man, the Most High, man, he's not the God of dummies. He says, man, if you can tell the times, if you can see what's going on, why not be prudent? Right? The same thing with Joseph here, right? If he's showing you visions, showing you signs of what's to come, why not be take that prudence and act on it, right? There's a story, man. If you guys watch The Pursuit of Happiness, not to be too long winded, but at the end of Pursuit of Happiness, there was this a I guess a wise saying, right? I don't want to say a joke because it was kind of a joke. And so a little Jaden Smith says there's a guy, he's stranded out on the in the ocean, and he believes in God, and every time a boat comes by and it says, "Hey man, you want some help?" He says, "It's okay, God's gonna save me." Another boat will come by, ask him if he needs help. It's okay, God's gonna save me, right? And finally, he dies because he said no, and then he gets to heaven and he asks God, he said, "Hey, why didn't you save me?" And God says, "I sent you 3 boats, you dummy." And it's the same thing in this situation, right? The Most High is giving us signs, giving us visions, telling us what's about to happen. You would be a dummy to not take heed and have prudence, right? And be a good steward of what you have and what you have access to. And our brother Joseph was no dummy. We're gonna start at verse. Hold up. Start at verse 29.
The book of
Genesis 41.
the book of Genesis 41, starting at verse 29. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land.
So this is Joseph, man. He's breaking down this vision that Pharaoh had, this dream that Pharaoh had, and he's letting him know that God is saying, "Hey, look, you're gonna have 7 plenteous years where the earth is gonna give off its fruit and be in abundance, right? And you're gonna have 7 years that follow them of famine, where you're not gonna yield anything from the land, right?" Keep reading.
And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous.
Con.
And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass.
Right. And what's the advice that Joseph is gonna give right here?
Verse
Keep reading.
33. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt.
Right. He said a man that's what?
Discreet and wise, and set
Right.
him over the land of Egypt.
Says pick you out a wise man. Right. Keep reading.
Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the fifth part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years.
Saying, hey, look, take a fifth of the parts of the land when in the 7 plenteous years where you're gonna get fruit in abundance from the land, right? Make sure you take a fifth of that and you save it, you store it. Keep reading.
And let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh,
I
and
mean,
let
this is keep reading.
them keep food in the cities.
Right, man. So I mean, and this is just the smart thing to do, right? Even in today's time, right? We all see tribulation coming. You don't even have to be in the truth to see tribulation coming. The smart thing for you to do, why is plenteous, right? Something that my manager always says at work, hey, because I work in sales, and when the phones is popping, you got to get it while get it while the getting is good. The getting is good right now, man. You got to be good stewards, man. There's nothing wrong with saving and storing and making sure you're gonna be okay when tribulation comes, right? Keep reading.
And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine.
Right, man. That's called being a good steward, right? Let's see what Pharaoh is gonna say, who he's gonna pick to be this wise man.
And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, for as much as God has showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art.
Joseph came humbly. He said, "Hey man, you need to pick you a discreet and wise man that's going to be able to pull this off, right?" He didn't mention himself or not, but Pharaoh turned around and looked like, "Hey, look, man, you saying pick somebody, but I need you. You're the one who came to this revelation, right? You know, he's giving him this whole plan, this whole scheme, right? It's obviously what you're a good steward. Be a good steward over my land. Keep reading.
Thou shalt be over my house, and
It says
according
what,
thou shalt be over my house,
right?
and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled.
And
Only
we
in
just
the
read and we just read scriptures that said what in Luke, where it just said, um, talking about somebody that had good stewardship, how the Lord will make him ruler over his own house, right? This is in this, he's making somebody a ruler over somebody else's house, right? Not only that, we read in Proverbs where it said that with the diligent they gain rule and they won't be under tributary, right? Where he said that he was gonna rule his people. He's not even ruling his own people, he's ruling somebody else's people because he has such good stewardship, right? Keep reading.
only in
You can
the
read
throne.
41.
Verse 41. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, see, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt.
Right, man. His stewardship, his diligency, right, his ability to manage. He hasn't even done it yet, but the what he's described, his ability to manage, has set him above all of Egypt, which is not even his land, right? I want to um get down here. Right. And so when the famine came, this is what happened. You can read verse 56 and 57.
Verse
Well,
56
actually start at 54.
and verse 54. And the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Joseph had said. And the dearth was in all lands, but in the land of Egypt there was bread.
Right, man. There was bread because they took heed and he was a good steward. He was a good steward over the plenteous years, right? You know, so when those famished years came, he was at a position where he can call the shots. He was in a position where he could chill out a little bit, right? You know what I'm saying? He was in a position where he didn't have to be under tributary and he didn't have to worry for much. Read 56 and 57.
And the famine was over all the face of the earth. And Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians, and the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands.
Right, man. Meaning what? The famine was so sore and everybody else, they didn't take good stewardship. They were forced to be what? Tributaries. Where Joseph was forced to be what? The bearer of the rule. You know what I'm saying? We talked about this analogy earlier. Hey, sacrifice now. Be diligent now. So when those times come where famines come, right? You can relax. You don't have to make haste. You don't have to be under tributary to anybody, right? You don't have to be in debt, right? Take good stewardship of what you have now, and I guarantee you it will pay off in the long run. And then I'll end with this precept, the classic. And I know we already brought it out, word of mouth, but it's a good precept to end on. Let's go to the book of Galatians 6 and 9. Shout out to the brother Azrael for this precept, man. Um, let's get this, man, and we can get up out of here.
The book of Galatians, chapter 6 and verse 9. And let us not be weary in well doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not.
Con, man. Be not weary in well doing, man. Keep on being diligent and consistent in all aspects of your life, not just money, but even in your faith, right? Even in your spiritual walk, even with your family, right? Your friends. Take good care, be responsible, have good management of these things, and I guarantee you, you will reap if you faint not. But with that, I'm brother Donal.
Khan, brother Azrael.
And with that, man, we yield, giving all honor and glory to the Most High God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who is a who sent his son as the instrument of salvation for the nation of Israel, who is our prayer and our heart's desire that they might be saved in these last days. If we come back and repent, and set our hearts aright and be diligent, right, and be good stewards of over the things that we were entrusted in, from the Most High, right? Them talents that we're supposed to be multiplying. But with that, we say shalom until next time.
Shalom.